welcome Logan Probst, our new city administrator. Glad to have you, glad to be working with you. You've already started out doing a real good job, so you're going to be an asset to this city. So today's your first official meeting.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll start with our department reports, and we'll move into code.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is the April report. Some of the highlights from the report: we had 392 calls in the code department, had 39 code inspections, and wrote 39 permits in that month. We had 12 new businesses get business licenses. Shows on there that 2 were closed, but those were actually a change of ownership and name change, so there weren't any losses on businesses that month. We didn't have any major projects permitted in that time frame, but we had Panera Bread ongoing, which is completed now, and the expansion of the Hitachi facility was ongoing at that time as well, which hasn't closed out yet. We were compiling information for Government Windows, which is a credit card servicing company, to allow for credit card payments in the code department for the first time, and we're now utilizing that service. It's a service for a fee, so it's no cost to the city. It's just a convenience fee if they'd like to use it. So we had 209 payments for business licenses. The city marshal removed 42 signs from the roadway. He wrote 84 repair cleanup notices. He wrote 8 citations and represented the city in municipal court. Historic Preservation Commission granted 2 COAs. Planning Commission granted 1. That's the highlights of the report. If there's any questions about the balance, I'll be glad to answer them. And also, behind that report is the demolition and cleanup list with the updates as to what has occurred up to date.
Are you still pretty much on track on demolition? So as far as you started out really strong?
Yes, sir.
Still going pretty good?
We've still got several going on. We actually had another demolition permit purchased yesterday based on a case we had going through the lawyer's office, and so we'll probably won't have to take that one to court. Just sign a consent agreement and get that done. We've also got another one at 513 that's willing to go into a consent agreement to have that demolished and the property liened. So we've got several in the pipeline.
It's looking good. I'm getting a lot of compliments from the neighbors around there.
Thank you. We'll continue
clean up some stuff.
Continue to work on that.
Thank you. Electric and telecom.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Got just a couple items of interest here. One is the pole inspections that's been going on. From what I understand, the inspections have been going very well. They've had less than 5% reject rate, which I understand has been down from the last couple of years, so that's been going really positive. We've moved all of our current cable modem customers from our old CMTS over to our new CMTS, which has been really good. We've already noticed an increase in bandwidth that we've been able to deliver to our customers by moving them over to our new hardware that we couldn't before, so that has been a huge benefit for us in the telecom department. We also started designs for equipment and facilities at Colo Atlanta, which is 55 Marietta. As you know, we're currently in 56 Marietta, but moving into 55 Marietta is also going to give us some redundancy and better efficiency of our network. So we've met with the owner down there and have currently got everything together to move forward on that so we can go ahead and get our equipment put in there. And the last thing is we met with the vendor for the fiber to the X or fiber to the premise project that we're currently working on, and that went very well. We've got pretty much a good list of the hardware and end user equipment that we want to use. We'll also meet with them next week at the F&A conference, and we'll be ready to start moving on that here probably very shortly. I don't have any questions if anybody has any.
We all back up and running from the power outage yesterday?
Yes, sir. To my knowledge, everything came back up once all the power was restored and all the telecom services were put back in place. I didn't see anything. That's the first thing I checked this morning when I came in. I didn't see anything else that was still down. So,
thank you very much. Crew did a very good job getting that up and going.
thank you.
Anybody any questions for electric? Finance?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it brief since Malden and Jenkins is here to present the 2016 financials. But for April, lost was $144,000. We just received the May local option, and for May, and it was $166,000. The airport fuel got left off the report, and it was the highest it's been over the last 12 months at 5,000 gallons, which is about $19,000. Moving on to the financials. In the general fund, we started including the estimates for property tax and the insurance premium. So that helps bring that number more in line with the 33% year-to-date mark. In the utilities, utilities and solid waste, we have adjusted some of the year-end entries that we took out and put them back in, so now you have a better comparison from April 2016 to April 2017. Again, the departments are all at or below the 33% mark on expenses. And with that addition of revenue for solid waste, that the transfer station at this point is 11% above what it was last year at this time. I'll take any question.
Okay, thank you. Fire?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire had 211 calls for service, had 166 calls to the fire department. Of the 211 calls, 113 were EMS or med assist type calls. Conducted 543 hours of training, had 9 public relations events during the month. Pending your questions.
Police?
Police Department had 2,894 calls for service, 1,663 calls to the PD, 321 court cases, conducted 447 training hours, had 35 Part 1 crimes, 52 Part 2 crimes, 77 adults arrested, no juveniles. You can see the public relations events listed there. Pending your question.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Solid waste?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our stats, our regular garbage pickup trending down a little bit, and our recycling was up, which is a good thing. That helps our conversion rate and disposal costs. But and most of that came from yard trimmings. It was over 127 tons of yard trimmings of limbs we picked up in the month of April. That's pretty much it. I don't see any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Streets and transportation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Highlighting the report for the month of April, on the admin side, we rented out the community building 6 times. Our fleet maintenance division completed 89 units of work throughout various departments of the city, doing preventative and corrective maintenance. Our grounds division continues to provide upkeep and good aesthetics throughout our city facilities. Cutting the grass, keeping it up with the rain is keeping them as well as our right-of-way crew kind of at bay in some last couple of weeks, but the green up is going to help our right-of-way as well as those facilities continue to look good. So they're staying on top of that. They also picked up 1.27 tons of litter throughout the city. On the street side, our right-of-way crew they're doing their best to keep up. Like I said, it's just you make a lot of mess sometimes in certain areas, and well, through all areas if it's too wet. I know y'all have probably noticed the mess that DOT's made out on the highway in the past couple of days. They'll have their trash crew come back and pick up once they've made this run through here to hopefully make it look a little bit better than what it does now. We definitely try to stay ahead of the game on that. Street division is doing the patching part of our 2017 LMIG work. That should be wrapped up next week, weather permitting, and we will move in from that phase into scheduling the actual resurfacing of those streets. Moving into sign and marketing division, completed 63 work orders and units of work there, and 63 as well in building maintenance. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jeremiah. Water, sewer, gas, and stormwater, Rodney.
Thanks, Mayor. The water treatment and wastewater treatment plant both were pretty consistent with previous months. 2.4 per day at the water plant and 2.1 at the wastewater plant. The distribution, our collection, and our natural gas divisions trending the same as well. Stormwater had a pretty eventful April with 246 ditches or pipes cleaned and 74 grates cleared. And the training center, we had 54 attending that month. Congratulations, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
I think Logan's got a couple of things to add under the department reports.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a couple brief things of interest to keep you aware of. Downtown on North Broad Street, I'm working with Jeremiah. GDOT is aware of the two depressions that are on that street, one kind of in front of St. Albans, the other in front of Cotton Cafe. Those have gotten worse over the past few weeks. Trucks are hitting those and just shaking the buildings. So that's on their scheduled list of repairs, so I want to make you aware of that in case you hear anything. And staff is also working with various mapping agencies regarding GPS on truck routes to keep trucks from coming down Church Street, Highway 83, and making them come back out at Unicia as they're supposed to do. So hopefully we can get that corrected over the next few months with Google Maps and several other GPS servers. And just to keep you in the loop, the Art Center has had a pretty massive roof leak, and staff will be assessing those options for re-roofing. And we'll have that to you next month at the meeting. But we're pretty much out of just repairs. We're going to have to go to a full replacement, so we'll be working on those options for you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for anybody before we move on? If not, we'll move into our committee information, finance.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of items on the agenda this evening. The first one being fiscal year 2016 audited financial statements and our CAFR. Adam Fraley is here from the accounting firm Malden & Jenkins, and I'll turn it over to him at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission for having me this evening. I'm here, my name is Adam Fraley with Malden & Jenkins, here to present the audit tonight. And in your packets, you should have a couple documents. The CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, it's got the neat looking cover there, is the year-end financial statements for the city. Also the, what we call the auditor discussion analysis, you'll see that there, which is going to summarize the highlights, or hit the highlights of the audit, summarize the results, etc. I'm going to go through this document, and it'll hit some of the financial highlights as well as kind of go through the results of them. So if you wouldn't mind turning in there with me. Let's see, the first couple pages, like on page 2, this is basic information about our firm as well as our governmental sector, which is the largest specialty niche practice within our firm. You'll see there we do about 70,000 hours of service each year to local governments. You'll see also at the top of the page we're about to celebrate our 100th year anniversary, so we're real proud of that. At the bottom of the page you'll see the team leaders for Monroe's audit, being myself, the lead partner, as well as Tim Lyons, our manager, and Justin Davis, engagement senior out here doing the conduct of the field work for the audit. On the next page 3, these are some other.
Excuse me, I'm not sure where you are in the document.
I'm sorry.
I
Do you have this
think
one here?
we have this.
We don't have
Yeah,
that.
we don't have that document.
Okay. Well, I'm just kind of hitting some of the highlights, and if you want to listen on and just stop me if you got any questions, and I'll try to.
Oh, okay.
It's in the
PDF. Oh, it's in the computer.
What is it? AD&D.
It's towards the back of that cap.
Okay, it's the last one.
Yeah.
Get to it. Okay, yeah. We've got it now.
Okay, Dylan?
All right,
Well, where I'm at is I just went over just some of the highlights on page 2 there, and now I'm flipping to page 3 in that document. And again, this is just some of the other services that we provide, some of the other industries. We do have a focus in governmental, but also a full service firm there. On page 4, this is kind of the bottom line of the audit. The CAP, or the financial statements, is the city's responsibility. The city's finance department is required by law each year to put together a set of financial statements and have auditors give an opinion on those financial statements, independent auditors give an opinion on them, and submit those to the state of Georgia within 6 months of its year end. So the city has met that requirement, but they are their responsibility. Our part in it is to render an opinion on those financial statements as to their fair presentation. We did so. We issued what we often call a clean opinion, which is an unmodified audit report, meaning that the financial statements we believe are fairly presented in all material respects for the year ended December 31, 2016. The next couple pages, on page 5 and on page 6, this talks about the fact that the city does a CAFR. Again, the city is required to have annual audited financial statements submitted to the state, but the city of Monroe goes above and beyond that and actually prepares a comprehensive annual financial report, which on page 5 there you'll see includes also an introductory section and a pretty robust statistical section. It has to meet certain standards, and the city submits to receive the CAFR award, which you'll see a little bit about that on page 6, which the city did receive the GFOA CAFR award for 2015 and is seeking that again for 2016. On page 7, this is a little bit of the financial highlights. The government as a whole, so this is citywide. You'll see its assets at the year ended December 31, 16 was about $131 million, offset by liabilities about $37 million, leaving an equity or a net position of about $94 million. Of course, a lot of that is made up of capital assets, roads, bridges, infrastructure. After taking that out, the rest of the net position that's unrestricted is about $13 million. That's kind of what's available for future spending. Okay. On the next page, we talk a little bit about the general fund, which is, of course, the main operating fund of the city. And you'll see there a graph showing the breakdown of the revenues during the year, showing the property taxes, sales taxes being the major sources of revenue, but also the others. On page 9, a similar chart breaking down the expenditures by function. You'll see there public safety being the largest, followed by, the debt service and health and welfare. And then on page 10, you'll see a comparison of the general fund revenues to its expenditures. So you'll see for 2016, the general fund had more revenues than expenditures, and you'll see how the change in fund balance, or the resulting difference between revenues and expenditures, resulted for the end of the year, or resulted for the year down at the bottom of the page there, and you'll see that on that line chart there at about $113,000. On page 11, this is one of my personal favorite graphs here. It shows expenditures and also shows fund balance for the city's general fund. You'll see annual expenditures are somewhere around $8.9 million. Fund balance at year end was about $2.98 million. You'll see down there in the percentages, that's about 33% of annual expenditures you have in fund balance. That's a good position. Good position to be. And you'll see the trend over since 2011, how that's kind of bounced around a little bit, but it's trended up to where we are in 2016. On the next page, it talks about the business type activities, so the utilities fund, etc. But you'll see that assets went from about $96.6 million to a little over $100 million for the year, while liabilities stayed in check at about $28 million. The net position increased from about $69 million to $73 million. Of course, again, a lot of that is in capital-related assets, leaving about $13.4 million in unrestricted and considered available for operations. On the next page, it talks a little bit about cash flows. Operating cash flows is one thing that we'd like to look at, and you'll see there that the city has strong operating cash flows in its business type activities at over $10 million this year. It also talks about some other things with capital purchases, principal payments on notes and revenue bonds, but ultimately resulting in an increase to cash of about 2.9 million, ending the year of almost 15 million. If you'll turn with me in the next couple pages, going through page 14 and page 15, this is kind of a Cliff Notes version to the CAFR, the footnotes, so you can kind of look back here and see what each of the footnotes are telling you. There's not a whole lot of change this year in this. On page 15, there's a new note this year, the GASB standards, which is the standard setting body for local governments, had the city implement GASB 77 related to tax abatements this year. So you'll see their note 15 on page 15. Just a little information about that. The city had about $140,000 of taxes abated related to governments in its jurisdiction, which is the Walton County Development Authority. So you'll see that as note 15 in the actual CAFR. I'm going to flip a couple pages, starting on page 16. This is some of our required communications. I'm just going to mention a couple things in there. We did have some audit adjustments as part of our process. They were discussed with management, agreed to with management. They were made as part of adjustments in the general ledger as well as the CAFR to ensure, again, that these are fairly presented. So everything was good there. We didn't have any difficulties encountered with the audit or disagreements with management. Everything went really well. They were real cooperative, got us everything in timely fashion, so we were able to be here, obviously within the deadline that the state allows, and we certainly appreciate that. It went real well. We did have one uncorrected misstatement. It was deemed immaterial by management, and we concurred with that thought. You'll see at the bottom of page 18 related to an investment holding of restating the beginning equity balances related to investment portfolio holding with MEAG. That is corrected going forward, however, though, and that amount will show up in the city's CAFR. The next couple pages, 19 and 20, we only had a couple findings. One was related to recognition of about $1.3 million of accounts payable, which was just a timing thing of amounts that were paid in 2017 that actually should be accrued back to 2016, and were done so as part of the audit process. And the other being on page 20 there, as I mentioned, the MEAG was adjusting the $260,000 to put that portfolio balance on the actual balance sheet, if you will, of the city. We had one management letter comment that was discussed with management. It's not to the level that we have to cite as a finding, but that was commented and discussed with management on that. I know they're in the process of addressing that as well already. Start on page 21. This goes through several of the new standards that have come out this year or been implemented this year or are to be implemented in the future. These next few years rather, and so we just want to keep abreast the governing bodies, city's management, finance department of these standards as they're coming out, just to make you aware of what's in the pipeline there. Nothing real earth-shattering here. Again, the biggest thing this year adopted was GASB 77, and it's a disclosure item only in the footnotes related to tax payments. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. If you've got any questions, I'd love to have an opportunity to answer this.
Hearing none, thank you, Adam. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is commercial utility deposit policy. You gonna take that?
I will take that, sir. What we have before you is an administrative policy revision for commercial utility deposits. So what has happened in the past is, as a business moves into town, they're required to put down 2 times their average monthly utility bill, which, you know, that can be pretty expensive for a startup business here in town. So what we're trying to do is create a more customer-friendly way of helping out our businesses, and while at the same time protecting the city from being held liable for bad debt. So what we have here is a new policy that we can implement similar to what we do for residential utility deposits. If the business owner wants to tie their utility deposit to their personal credit, we can run that just in the same manner. So if you have really good credit, we have this sliding scale here that we use for business type and credit score that you see. So that should substantially lower startup business costs within the city going forward. I'll be happy to take any questions. Beth Thompson is here. She can answer any questions on that as she manages that program. But just it's for your review, and this is administratively done, so it doesn't have to be formally adopted by council. But we'll welcome any comments or questions.
Oh, I'm glad, frankly, I'm glad to see that, trying one more avenue to make it more customer friendly.
Sure.
And it certainly seems fair.
You'll notice one of the things is restaurants will still require a relatively small deposit just because they are very heavy utility users. But if you look what we have here, the average bill amount versus what would be required under a good credit score, it's a pretty substantial savings on startup costs.
Okay. That's all we have on the agenda this evening from Finance, Mayor.
Okay, moving to airport.
I'll turn that over to Chris Bailey.
Okay.
David stole a little bit of my thunder with letting y'all know that April was actually the biggest month that we've had with a fuel farm. We sold 5,300 gallons, a little over $19,000 in revenue. We dropped a little bit in May to 3,500 gallons, so a little bit over $12,000. A lot of it had to do with the weather. I wanted to update y'all that AWAS system is being installed this week. They came yesterday and kind of fought between showers of rain to kind of get the pad, everything, electric, telecom, everything's in place. They were back out there today. Hopefully they finish maybe by Thursday. So we should be operating. And then the one other thing I was going to mention, I'd sent the email out updating everyone on kind of what's going on, was jet fuel truck. It's pretty much kind of a wash. I think we're going to end up bringing that back to council maybe in about August to surplus it, just because it's costing too much to try to fix, and we've yet to pump a gallon of fuel out of it. So we're going to look at the option of leasing a truck from Perry Brothers so that we can start selling jet fuel, which should make more money than what Avgas does, because Avgas kind of breaks even. So I feel like in August we should have that going. And two, standard operating procedures, minimum standards for the airport. I think currently if you look on the City of Monroe website and go to that department, you'll see that it's just a one-page kind of a summation of things. After working with Barge Wagner, Sumner Cannon, we've developed about a 15 page set of procedures and minimum standards, and DOT, we actually got approval today from the aviation department to proceed with those. So we're just waiting for a hard copy in the mail, and those will be reposted. And once hangar lease agreements come back up in August, those will be included with those hangar leases as well. So it'll change a few things of how we operate and gives us a little bit of teeth to govern and kind of police some things a little bit better. So that's all I got, unless anybody's got any questions.
Thank you. Public Works.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have several items tonight. First, with problem at the transfer station and doing an emergency purchase. So, Mr. Smith, if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, we had an incident on May 11th where the metal wall collapsed inside the lower floor of the transfer station, and it was a major safety concern, so we had to get it repaired. And our contractor right down the street from the sole source provider, R&R Welding, they were able to come in the following week and repair it. It is a budgeted item under site improvement, and it is back up. And the purpose of the wall is a splash wall. When the loader loads the trailer, it kind of reduces the amount of waste that falls inside the lower pit. So they constantly have to keep the pit clean and have the drainage where it's draining like it's supposed to. And the wall collapsed and landed on the trailer. So we didn't have anybody in the floor, so that was a blessing. There are some pictures on, you can see, I don't know how well they come out, but that piece of metal could have landed on a person, so we're just thankful for that. So, but it was repaired, and it was actually done at $21,220 instead of $22,000.
Mr. Probst, since this was an emergency matter, does this committee still need to recommend approval to the council for a vote next week?
Traditionally, we've done that. That's how I would operate.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to recommend approval to the full council.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Hancock,
Second.
second by Mr. Richardson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next thing is, Dan, if you can tell us again about the tires we need to purchase.
Sure. Yeah, we're recommending approval of replacing the solid tires for the John Deere loader from Setco at a price of $30,832. We had two other bids came in a lot lower, but those two quotes was for a different type of tire and rim assembly. They're press-on tires, which requires some outsourcing when these tires go flat, and that's an additional cost. But the main two reasons we're recommending Setco is because they meet our specifications for that particular loader, and the life of the tires and the performance. The last time we purchased tires was in November 2014, so they lasted 2.5 years, which in effect we paid like $12,000 to $15,000 for. And I'll take any questions that you might have.
Anyone in the committee have any questions? So the recommendation from staff is that we purchase from Setco Solid Tire and Assembly the tires for $30,832. Do we have a motion to recommend this to the council?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Richardson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hancock. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll recommend that to the full council. The next item we have on the agenda concerns the construction management contract for the North Broad LCI. Mr. Probst?
I'll take that. As you know, we've been gearing up slowly for this North Broad LCI street enhancement, which is basically just going to be a nice sidewalk amenity from Marable Street all the way up to the Highway 78 bridge area. And this is a $3.5 million project run through DOT, but it's a federal project, so there's a lot of moving parts here. So my recommendation is that we keep Keck & Wood on, who did the engineering for this, as our construction manager, and their fee for the construction management is $45,000.
But we were able to recoup that because, I mean, a good bit of that, right?
Yeah, this will count towards our reimbursable match portion.
And with the size and scope of this project, we need someone to manage it, obviously.
Correct, especially this being a federal LCI project. It always helps to have the experts on board for this.
Okay. Any questions?
Are they on schedule to get started this year with that project?
Well, we just had a GDOT audit last week on this project, even though we've only done engineering and right-of-way acquisition. They came in and did an audit, and during the course of that audit, which we did very well on, by the way, I asked what the time frame was now, and they're looking at putting it out for bid next month, sometime in July. They still haven't officially announced the federal funding to GDOT yet. And then from there, it could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months before dirt is turned. Probably more like 6 to 8 months. So I doubt it would be this year.
Or we're gonna go ahead and do the other project, the Spring Street project.
That's what I'm going to recommend. We're getting that geared up now, and I hope to update you on that very soon to get that going in lieu of this project first.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve Keck and Wood as a management contract for this at a price of $45,000?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, Mr. Richardson. Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Adcock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we recommend that for approval next week at the council. And then our last item is the, again on North Broad Street, the right-of-way mowing. Jeremiah?
I can take that, that's fine.
Okay.
So in order to take over all of the DOT area that they normally maintain for State Route 11, North Broad Street, we need to enter into this right-of-way mowing, maintenance, and sidewalk agreement, which basically says that we're responsible for the upkeep of all of this enhancement that we're going to put forth on the street. This is similar to other projects we've done on South Broad for that TE grant.
So this just really says we'll maintain from Maryville to 78.
Correct.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve this contract?
Motion to approve.
Motion, to have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, that's all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Utilities?
Thank you, Mayor. The first item that we have is the purchase of a ground penetrating radar. Mr. You're going to have it. Mr. Bailey's going to have it.
All right, what we're looking at here is a request to purchase the ground penetrating radar unit. It's an RD 1100 from CNS Solutions East. What it allows us to do is basically any underground utilities to locate, determine the approximate size of the pipe or the utility that runs under it, and the actual depth of bury, which is rather important when you're digging and there are multiple lines in an area or multiple underground utilities. And you can see in the recommendation portion that we've actually, over the past year, we've had to more frequently rent this piece of equipment, which is $500 a time. And then we've also requested the contract service, which is another $300 to $600 depending on half day versus full day, and that's if the company is available. So over the last year, best I could estimate looking back, we've spent about $3,000. And we would use it a lot more if we actually had the equipment, and I think it would save us a lot on any cuts, any issues of kind of knowing what we have to put into to an actual work project, to know kind of where we're digging, how deep we're having to get to, and what we're looking for. So payback's going to be roughly about 3 years, I would say, if we actually purchase the unit for our locator, and it'd be used on all underground utilities. Any questions?
Yeah, it's not just electric and cable.
Right.
Water, sewer, we use it too, right?
Yes, it's everything, anything underground.
And
What's the normal life of a piece of equipment like that?
They're guaranteeing any service on the equipment for free. We also get a free loaner in the downtime. The life, I mean, would be as long as you typically take care of it. I'm not real sure of the failure rate, but I would imagine it would last for a good 10 to 15 years.
And the expected expenditure, the low bid was
Yeah,
13.5.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Let me ask you this, when you're going into those sites and estimating the depth and the size of the pipe, and we're making those replacements, do we have protocol whereby we are recording all that and keeping a record? Because I know that we've got a lot of areas that were never recorded.
On location at the
Yeah.
utility warehouse.
Okay.
Where you can pull it by address, pull everything. So
Okay.
yeah, this would help us a lot there too.
Sounds like a good plan.
The alternative to using this is actually digging
And hitting.
holes
the
and
thing
looking
is, it'll
for
locate
it
certain
before you
things that
drill.
The current locators don't locate. Yeah, so.
This is becoming more and more important as we're getting into some of these neighborhoods that were defunct and now are coming back to life, to see what's under there without having to dig it up.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I recommend approval of CNS Solutions.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Bradley, second by Ms. Crawford. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We will recommend this to council next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. The next item is the approval of Windstream relocation agreement.
I'll take that.
You going to do that?
Circling back to North Broad LCI project again, in order to have the Windstream lines removed from a pole in the middle of that project, it's a pretty extensive relocation. Windstream is asking for a reimbursement of $23,498.41 as part of this agreement. Again, this counts towards our project match.
Did we estimate it to be approximately that?
This comes from Brian, who spent a lot of time at this location
I
and
bet.
has tried to figure out ways to move it himself. But this being a Windstream, we just want to let them do the work.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move we recommend approval to the council.
Is there a second? I second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We recommend that to council. Approval of the CDBG 2018 grant writing agreement.
I'll take that, Mr.
Ms.
Little.
Middlebrooks, are you?
I can take mine. This just kicks off the 2018 CDBG application with Allen Smith Consulting. 2016 we were awarded $500,000 in that grant for the 5th and 6th Street sewer rehab, and we're hoping to do a similar project just up the street if that works out and we're awarded by the state. So this is just to kick that application off with Allen Smith. The total fees are $10,000. $4,000 of this will be paid up front.
Any questions for Mr. Crooks? It's not exactly budgeted, is it?
Nope.
For that amount?
What I'm going to recommend is that we amend the budget from a couple different line items. I think if we get this grant, it's going to pay dividends. So we have several operating line items that we can adjust that from hereafter.
Is there a motion that we approve the grant writing contract?
I move we recommend to the council approval of the contract with Allen Smith in the amount of $10,000.
Thank you. Is there a second? A second. All those in favor of approving this contract recommended to council say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries, and we will recommend that to council next week. Approval Highway 78 Jack and Board.
That'll be mine. Asking for your approval tonight to contract with J&M Unique Septic Systems in the amount of $44,800 to perform a jack and bore under 78 Highway from one side of Jim Dawes Road to the other side. This is part of the Jim Dawes water project that we started, I think last year. And so we put the bore in this year's budget. It's 200 feet of bore, and DOT requires us to put a 16-inch casing in first, and then we'll pull the 8-inch pipe through. It come in well under the budget. We had it budgeted at $150,000. So, if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Middlebrooks?
So you did get 3 bids?
Yes.
Good deal.
Okay. Yeah, I see that they are attached.
Is this part of the same project that you all were working on this year or last year?
Last year we did the water and sewer on Jim Dawes, and then we had the not water and sewer. I'm sorry, water and gas, and we had the road bore in this year's budget.
And this will complete a link, is that right?
Yeah, basically it's going to loop everything from Old Athens Highway through Jim Dawes over to Jim Dawes on the other side, which would also help the Unicia pressure issues that we've had there. And then once we complete, we're working on, or about to start, the Mountain Creek side of this project, which would go from Smoke Rise subdivision that's on Mountain Creek over to Gratis Road. Then we would be looped from 11 Gratis Road, Old Athens, 78 Snowsville.
And,
So we have it completely surrounded.
and if another building goes in the industrial park, this will be a big help to the water pressure. And
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve, I make a motion, we recommend approval of this for 44.8 to J&M Unique Septic System.
Motion by Mr. Bradley. Is there a second? I second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We recommend that motion to council. One more item, the purchase and installation of the VFD.
That'll be mine as well. Asking to purchase the VFD for the wastewater pump. It's a variable frequency drive. It's basically what it is a motor controller that allows us to run the motor and the pump at different speeds. And this one actually went out on us a couple weeks ago. So the low bid was PRB Electronics at $13,675.14. And there's 3 bids attached. The very last bid you'll notice was $8,300, but they couldn't provide the labor, so that's why they went with the 13 with PRB.
Did you say this replacing something that's gone out?
Yes.
What happens in the process if it goes out? Do we have a backup?
Yeah, there's four pumps. This is the trickling filter pump is what it is. So there's 4 of them, and each one of them has this unit on it. So it's just replacing the one that's went out.
Is there any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we recommend approval to the council to award this to PRB Electronics.
Motion by Mr. Bradley. Is there a second? I second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. We will recommend that to council.
Thanks.
That's all we have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Public safety, do you have anything?
We don't have anything tonight, Mayor.
Okay, economic development.
Thank you. Just want to briefly mention that the next big focus of our Monroe housing team is a Community Impact Day and Housing Expo on July 8th at the Community Center. We'll be hosting this in partnership with Hope Monroe and the Walton Barrow Board of Realtors. Actually applied for a grant and were awarded a $2,500 grant to host this event for the community. Be giving housing information assistance. We'll have lots of vendors there from DCA, USDA, police and fire will be present. We'll have lots of activities for kids. And then in the sessions that the Board of Realtors is doing, they'll talk about down payment assistance, how to read and repair your credit, and how to purchase HUD homes. So hopefully this will be a resource to the community and the first of many of these housing fairs to help move people into sustainable ownership or even just renting of their homes. And that's on July 8th. We'll have more flyers and you'll see more information around the community with this coming up. And we're having a lot of interest for buildings and businesses downtown, and hopefully we'll have some new ones open up in the next few months. Any questions?
Thank you.
Do you have a report from the concert?
It was a very good concert, yeah. We had a great crowd, and we have rescheduled the May for July 7th. So we will have a July concert this year, July 7th. But it was really great. We had a good turnout, and the
weather was beautiful.
Streets were filled, great weather, yeah. So,
thank you.
thanks for asking.
Okay, that ends our department reports. We'll move into items of discussion. We have an upcoming public hearing of variance on the Legends Drive. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a application by Reliant Homes for variance on several lots in that subdivision that they want to build on. Just going over the highlights of the request, they're needing to change some setbacks on the rear and side setbacks and some other more specific needs to accommodate their footprint of their houses that they plan to build in there. On that particular variance, the staff is recommending that we approve that variance so that they could get that neighborhood that's been sitting for a while going again. And the only recommendation that we made on that particular item was to request that they get 100% buy-in from the people that are already living in the neighborhood. So they're working on that. They've got that going. So that's
question on that is that I noticed on one of those lots is they're requesting a variance out to 5-foot setback on the side.
Yes, on several.
Well, I thought most of them were 10 feet, I guess, but one was 5. Is that going to create any problems? I'm all for getting this neighborhood developed.
No.
5 foot seems awful small.
Well, 5 would be the absolute minimum that would be allowed, since the building separation requirement is 10 feet. So if somebody's 5 feet from their property line and the next house is only 5 feet from their property line adjacent, then yeah, that would barely meet the requirement, but it would meet the requirement of 10-foot separation.
And I understand that all the neighbors are
Yeah, they
in favor
have
of
buy-in. They sent me an email, and I think actually, give me a second to get to the thing. I think they included a letter or an email stating that they have most of the people's agreement.
Everybody but one, and he just didn't want to write a letter, but
That was the Moon, I believe.
she's been real sick.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so they've basically got that consensus for the changes on that one. So, if you have
And
any
I think we made one similar for a house that was built about 3 or 4 years ago.
We did. They've since sold that house, but yeah, they wanted to be closer to the road and extend their garage out to accommodate a rather large pickup truck that owner had at the time. And so they did it in the planning phase and asked for the variance, and we did do that.
And it looks good. I was by there.
It's very oddly shaped lots, so I think that's one of the reasons, besides the downturn, that those particular lots weren't chosen in the beginning, because they're closer to the front and they're actually more accessible, but they just wouldn't fit a really decent footprint. So they've got some good plans that they want to put on there in the price range that goes in that neighborhood, and they should be able to accommodate it with these variances.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Patrick. Item B is a variance on 2140 West Spring Street.
Yes, sir, and that's the Arby's. The GPD group is proposing to build Arby's on that site. They need a variance to allow for relief from the 60% lot coverage maximum, and they're only exceeding it by less than 1%, but they were over it, so they wanted to get the variance. And also they wanted a variance from the parking lot requirements due to the fact that they need a minimum of 35 parking spaces to operate that business, and our parking requirements would only allow up to, I think, 13 plus a 20% variance administratively. So they're just doing this because administrative variance wouldn't allow for them to have enough parking to accommodate their business.
So when they do that, are they taking out green space to get it? Is that how they're achieving more spaces?
No, actually, the 60% variance will accommodate all the parking. The 60% ground cover variance that they're asking for will accommodate all the parking, so there'll be another 40% in green space and parking islands and things like that.
Okay.
So they'll have to meet the corridor design overlay standards
Good.
for that with plantings and sprinkler systems and sodding and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So it'll look nice. Hopefully as good as Panera, which looks
It looks
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Patrick on that variance? Okay, item 2 is approval of the official zoning map.
Yes, sir, and this is just kind of an administrative cleanup of the zoning map. We've had several years of annexations and zoning decisions and actions that haven't been put on the map for the cleanup, so it's just a periodic update of incorporating all the zoning actions to date. So that's what that will be. And that'll just be a motion and a vote on that next week.
Okay. Any questions about the map? Okay, item number 3 is discussion of motorized carts ordinance. Logan.
Thank you, Mayor. You have before you a proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 94 of our Code of Ordinance, allowing for the operation of motorized carts. You know, in common parlance, it's called golf carts, but these are not true golf carts. These have to meet minimum state standards with lighting, safety, so on and so forth. There's permitting requirements in here. The code office would be able to handle that permitting. And the owners would have to have insurance on the vehicle, and it's only for operation on streets of speed limits up to 35 miles an hour. Be happy to take any questions. This is just kind of to discuss and amend this ordinance.
Operators, it said, if I read it correctly, you either have to have a valid driver's license or the driver has to be supervised by someone with a valid driver's license. But it doesn't have any age, so that means a 10-year-old could be driving as long as someone with a driver's license is in with him?
Well, I believe that refers back to another state statute, so I would assume, but we can double check on that for the language, that it's referring to a driver of legal age.
Okay, it just doesn't say that in there.
It's not specific.
I'd be a little concerned.
That's something we can nail down for sure.
Okay.
Do it
And
have
then
a minimum speed that car had to go?
35 miles an hour.
Maximum.
Maximum.
On the roads, speed
They have to be able
limits.
to operate at a minimum of 20 miles per hour.
Yeah, I mean, it still has to follow all the road laws, pretty much, is what I understand.
Yeah, uniform traffic code would apply, and they also have to have a slow moving vehicle emblem that's attached to the rear of the vehicle. There's quite a bit of requirements to make it safe to operate on cities.
And they would be utilizing could utilize downtown parking. That would be where they would be parked in the event that, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've reached out to several other city managers who have implemented this, and it, for the most part, has been very positive. The only problems they've had here and there are unauthorized carts, true golf carts, hitting the streets.
You just have to.
And they give them citations, but overall they've been very popular for festivals and various special events that we have in town, but not a lot of negative feedback from other cities. Hateville, Griffin, Tifton, a couple other ones already have this in place. And many more are actually looking to adopt this since the state has updated these motorized cart requirements.
The city of Social Circle had an old, don't they? The same one.
Yeah, I believe they've adopted it.
Sounds like a good plan.
Any more questions? Okay, we'll get some more information on that and look forward to hearing some more about that.
Okay.
Item number 4 is a resolution for the comprehensive plan update. You want to take that, Patrick, since
It's
you
okay.
worked on it?
I can handle that one from here if that's all right.
Sure.
This is just a resolution to cover the adoption of the Monroe Comprehensive Plan as it has been presented to you in the draft form. I believe it's about a month ago we got it pretty much finalized, so what you've been presented is what we're adopting, and this is just the formal resolution to do so, should you determine that it's something that you'd like to do. We do need to adopt a comprehensive plan in order to be a qualified local government, so that's what this is for.
Okay. And item 5 is a service delivery strategy extension, and I'll let Logan handle that one.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as part of doing the comprehensive plan update with the county, and we also did our own, we now have to revisit the county city service delivery strategy. You know, that's the big plan that we all come together on and adopt. It's a 10-year plan that lays out who's going to provide what services. Since we've already done the 10-year back in 2009, it's not due until August 31st, 2019 for renewal. I've met with the county and several other city leaders, and we've just decided to do DCA Form 5 certifications for extension of existing SDS. So let's not change anything right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but let's just move on with what we have for our current service delivery strategy. And this is due to the state by June 30th to coincide with the comprehensive plan, and this keeps our qualified local government status so that we can continue to get grant funding.
So what happened in 2019? Revisit?
Yes.
August 31st, 2019 will be, it'll be renewed. So we'll be in contact with the county and other cities within Walton County to revise our SDS as needed.
Okay, we have one item requiring action tonight. It's application for beer and wine on premises consumption for Katie's downtown. The business owners here? Yes. Okay, and I'm assuming the legal stuff's all in?
Everything's in order.
All in order?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll need to entertain a motion on this application.
Move to approve, Mayor.
I have a motion by Mr. Adcock.
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
We have one, Ms. Crawford opposed. So we'll need a show of hands. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Have 6-4. All against, 1, Ms. Crawford. That motion passes. So with no other business, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Richardson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Adcock. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.